I am Juan Carlos from Colombia.
Colombia.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
We were just, before you arrived, talking about Istanbul, and we're wondering what your connection to Istanbul is. And I read somewhere that your parents went from Georgia to Istanbul.
Yeah,
Turkey,
no.
or?
So my parents are Georgian, but they were born in Turkey, but not in Istanbul. Like but closer to by the Black Sea. There's a big Georgian diaspora in Turkey, like probably 1 million people, Georgians came there back in the days of Stalin. But I also had some relatives in Istanbul.
Because I was thinking, I mean,
I love Istanbul.
The way you connect.
Have you been there?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. I love it a lot.
Exactly, because I
What
mean,
a city!
But the thing is, sometimes if you are a foreigner, you cannot really
No.
capture. But I knew you were not a foreigner in Istanbul. That we were
That's
talking
it.
about
And
that.
somebody yesterday who's from Turkey came up to me and they said, I was expecting you to exotify or to be a tourist in Istanbul, but you really captured Istanbul. And I was like, thank you. But I love Istanbul.
Me too. Thank you for your film. I really like the way that you show us Istanbul. It's a city that is very, impressive.
Yes,
it's fantastic.
It's fantastic, yeah.
But I want to ask you if you have any relationship with a film 25 years ago from Brazil, Central do Brazil.
I thought of that, of course.
Oh my God, how did you think of that?
Because I am 50 years old. And
me too. I am from that generation. I love Central do Brazil. What's her name, Fernanda?
Montenegro.
Yeah. She was nominated
for the Oscar. Yeah. And because of the little kid, a lady, yeah.
I love that film.
And they won here.
They did?
They won the Golden Bear.
But Fernanda, how old is she now?
She's close to 90.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but she's still doing some work in Brazil, like for TV.
I love that film.
Yeah.
That's so nice that you could see some strands of it in this one.
So, could you please explain me a bit?
I mean, I wasn't like openly inspired. I don't think so, but I think probably because that's in Rio, right, or Sao Paulo.
It was in Rio, but they traveled to the north of Brazil.
Yeah. No, I mean Istanbul, Sao Paulo. It feels like one of those last cities in the world that's still alive and still that has texture, that has so that's one thing. And also, yes, maybe that's so interesting that you bring that film up, because maybe the women have something in common. I think they're both strong,
they're
Brazilian,
both, teachers.
Oh yeah, she's a teacher.
Yeah.
Oh really?
And the relationship with
the
the
little boy. Yeah, that's sweet.
The relationship between them.
That's so sweet.
I don't
maybe
care about you.
it's there,
But even like the characters they meet on the way, their journey is it's a learning experience.
Yes, of
so
course.
It's everything. Yeah, it is very connected. Yeah, but I thought because of Brazilian, but it's nice that other people really care.
No, that's amazing.
We are brothers.
Yeah, that's
yes,
true. Yeah.
I feel like maybe in that film it's more like how do you say, clear narrative, or like a more narrative, like a dramaturgical narrative. This one, for me, it was important with this film to make it. I really wanted to make it. How do you say? Alive in a way, like it just branches out, like Istanbul.
Because it is kind of organic, the way
yes.
they meet the other
Thank you.
characters.
That's the word I was looking for. I wanted to feel more organic, not sort of narratively.
That was planned.
It's like you meet these kids and then you go back to them, and then it was just like how I feel Istanbul is.
I read that you born in Sweden.
Yes.
Right? But you are warm person. I mean,
yes.
Warm blood.
Yes.
Let's say.
Yes.
So, how is to grow up in Sweden and then go to Istanbul with this kind of?
I mean, I did, and then we danced in Georgia.
Yeah, I love it.
Thank you. And then I did this film. I mean, I think like in all my films, they're always like outsiders. Leah is an outsider. Achi is an outsider. Evrim, Tekla, like they're all these people that are sort of around the margins, and then they meet each other and they take care of each other. And I don't know, to me, somebody asked me yesterday, like, do you feel like you're a Georgian filmmaker or a Swedish filmmaker? And I said, I don't know what I am. I'm just somebody looking in from the outside and making these films. I don't know. I probably won't ever make a film in Istanbul again. But I don't know. I'm from nowhere and everywhere. But I don't know. It's strange. I never felt at home anywhere. You know, in Sweden they're always like, so where are you originally from? Or in Turkey or Georgia, they, you know, who are it's not difficult, but it's special to never have a context of being at home anywhere. You know, that feeling, it's weird.
So how much can we say that the title of the film, Crossings, has to do with you being in a crossroad your whole life?
I think the original title of the film is Passage.
Okay.
And that's the title in Sweden. And then we had to change it to Crossing internationally. But
Why?
because there's another movie
I know,
called
yeah.
Passages.
It was your last
year.
yeah.
Here.
Ira sucks. Yeah.
Ira. But how much is it? I mean, you know, because where are you from?
Spain.
Spain. Yeah, no, I've always felt that I was in a crossroads somehow, I think. Always.
Passage obviously is also a reference maybe to the trans community, where
Sure.
that word has a very
Yes.
special meaning. And I was wondering, because that's a big part of the film for me, was about trans solidarity and,
Yeah.
and that community, and you show that very intimately. How easy was it to, I don't know, find your own access to that world, to that community?
It was a little tricky, to be honest, especially because when I started researching the film, I never thought like, oh, I want to make a film about trans people. That was never my. I was doing research and I heard this story about a grandfather in Georgia, who was the biggest supporter of his grandchild who was trans, and I thought that was so sweet. And in Georgia, and then we danced. There was a very big, you know, how do you say, controversy with the film. You know, and I was thinking like, but there are, you know, people from the older generation, if you will say, who are really supportive of their children, even if they're LGBTQ+. So I wanted to show that in the film. I was like, that's interesting. I want to see that. I want to see a story where, you know, a person really tries to find and support someone in their family who is trans, even if they're from an older generation. You know, I don't want it to be just exclusively like, oh, the young people are more progressive, because that's not the truth from what I heard in my research. So that's how the idea of the film came. But then, since I'm a cis man, I'm you know, my perspective is different. So it sort of developed into also Achi, the boy, came into the story, and I was thinking like, I want it to be a story about people that are just outside the margins, for whatever reason, because of patriarchy. This woman, Leah, Achi with his brother, who's horrible to him. You know, he just wants to get out of this Georgian structure. And then you have Evrim and these little kids and like all of these people who were just like nice to each other. I just wanted to see something where people were nice. You know, when me myself, sometimes people say, you have to watch this movie or you have to watch this TV series, and I always say, does something bad happen in it? And they're like, no, it's okay, you can relax. I'm like, oh. And that's the feeling I wanted to give with this film for people watching it. I wanted it to be realistic. You feel that it's in a real world, that there are, you know, real things happening. But I also wanted the audience to feel like nothing bad is going to happen to Evrim, to Leah. Like, they're just navigating this horrible world in a way. But I don't know. It's really weird. The timeline we're in is so strange and dark, and I'm so depressed about it. So I wanted to do something friendly.
If you are dealing with the trans community, because nowadays, I mean, if you do anything, because it's a delicate the way you portray them, because now there is backlash every time you do anything.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, so were you concerned in terms of
I wasn't.
casting them?
I wasn't concerned actually, but I was very sort of. I really did. I did a lot of research, and I wanted, you know. But I think in a way, the film is about more than that.
It is, yes.
Yeah. So. Yeah, it wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna make a film about trans people and how hard their lives are. Like, that was never my intention. It was just like, I want to make a film about inclusiveness and
Compassion, no?
compassion. Thank you, for the world, and like solidarity is also the world. I just wanted to make a film, and yeah, that's what we did. Yeah.
How helpful is language? Because in Spain we're having this problem about adapting our language to
Yeah.
the gender neutral.
Yeah.
But at the very beginning of the film,
Yes.
we can read how Turkish and Georgian have
Yes.
got this problem.
Yes. So they don't. So basically, and that's something that goes a little lost in translation, unfortunately, because in the beginning of the film, Leah, she calls, Tekla it. And there's in Georgian almost, not negative, but a little judgmental, because she says, in the beginning of the film, she says, what's her name? Somebody asks, or what's their name? And Leah doesn't say they, she says it. She says it calls itself Tekla. So you can feel in Georgian that she is judging Tekla. Mm-hmm. And then that sort of changes throughout the film. But in English or Swedish, it just becomes she, because we don't, So that gets a little... But on the other hand, I don't think it matters. Because on one hand, you can feel like, oh, she's already accepting her as a woman and blah, blah, blah. That's fine. She can do that. But actually in Georgian, she's not really, in the beginning of the film, she's not really accepting.
And you kind of feel that.
Yeah, okay, that's good. Yeah, you feel it. That's great.
She does change.
Yes.
She's such a fantastic actress.
She's so sweet. I love her.
I mean, all the actors are very good, but she particularly.
Yeah, she's amazing.
How important was casting the right?
Oh no, I mean, it was so hard for this film to find these people. And when I saw her, somebody showed me a clip the first time, and I was like, who is this woman? And they said, oh, she's in the theater, and blah, blah, and I was like, she's amazing. And when I found her, I was like, oh, okay, we can make a film. This film in particular, more than anything else I've done, was very relying on finding the right people. Yeah.
And I love the fact that she was never married. This
Yeah,
story, I think
yeah.
it adds more against the patriarchal society.
It really does. If it would have been Tekla's mother, it would have been a different
Exactly,
story and
yeah.
not as interesting. I love that it was this sister, and you feel she was a little outsider, and she was. She's
because
very
she
sweet.
could have connected with her
They
earlier.
did, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like they did. She says somewhere like she, that Tekla had so many questions. She was so. You could feel that
So
they were
curious,
close.
Yes,
Yeah.
How did
She's-
you manage to combine? Because I guess that they are natural actors and actors. How did you manage to make?
Oh
it
yeah.
work?
I always in my films end up mixing. Also in my last movie it was the same. It was professional and amateurs and everything. And I mean, in my other life, I make TV. I do a lot of TV to survive financially, because you don't really survive making these films that I do, and I have to pay some bills, unfortunately. But then I work more with like professional actors, and to me, I love working also with real people because I love catching things, A lot of this stuff in Crossing is stuff that I saw when I was researching, and I was like, oh my god, this is so fascinating. But I'm not a documentarian, so I'm like, I have to fictionalize this somehow. But a lot of the scenes, especially when she's in the doctor's office or in the police station, a lot of those things were things that I saw, and I wanted to share it cinematically with the audience, because I'm very curious, and I think that maybe the audience is too. I love seeing, things like that.
Since you mentioned the TV that you do, I was going to ask about how, after the international attention that And Then We Dance received, I mean, there must have been quite a few opportunities for you. How did you decide what to do next?
Yeah, it was a little tricky because I got not a lot, but some American offers and things like that. But I really wanted to make this film. It was important to me. But then also I in between I did I don't know if it's out in Brazil or in Spain, maybe not in Spain. I did Interview with the Vampire, which is the Anne Rice, and I love Anne Rice. When I was young, that was one of the first gay books that I read, and I was obsessed with Anne Rice and her books. So I did Interview with the Vampire. I did season 1 and season 2 now. I did also 4 episodes from season 2.
So exciting.
Yeah, it's such a good show. It's amazing. The writing is amazing. They're very smart, these writers. That's fascinating in America because in the system, because there's money in the system, sometimes they can do art actually, and actually get paid, which we don't really have back home in Sweden. But yeah, it's a good show. So I did that also now in between these years, and then I made this film. Yeah. I don't know what's happening.
Something personal. What about the cats? I mean, they're all around Istanbul, or is it something that you are keen on portraying?
Do you mean if they live in Istanbul or the cast?
The film.
Cats.
The cats.
You are really content because if you are there,
I
you're gonna put more
I
cats
love
on
the
more
cat. I mean, where's my phone? I have a lot of cats myself.
Okay.
And the cats just came. I think I'm like the cat whisperer. Literally, they were all.
Have you seen it?
I mean, Istanbul has Istanbul has a lot of cats, but we were also very lucky filming because all the time a cat would come, or in the hospital scene when the cat comes and sits, that just happened. We were like, oh my god, okay. The cats blessed our film.
Okay.
The cat said, make this film. I love cats. Do you have a lot of cats in
I'm
Spain?
allergic, but I like them a lot.
But you don't have street cats in
I'm
Spain.
living in Amman.
Oh, you have cats?
So a lot. It's like today is more than nice. Too many.
Too many. What about in Brazil?
Lots of cats.
Like Istanbul?
Yes. Not Istanbul is quite extraordinary in terms of because
Yeah.
they're friendly and at the same time wild. You have because of the documentary
Yeah,
shows they have personalities.
Everybody takes care of the cats in Istanbul. I love cats so much.
Do you think you could have told this story in other parts of the world? I mean, because I felt it's at one time it's very specific when it comes to being, Georgian and Turkish. But I was wondering if you think one could tell this story anywhere.
Not anywhere, I don't think. But I think it's interesting because not many people know that Georgia and Turkey are so close, and that you can just go over.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
You can just cross the border and take a bus for a few hours, and you're in Istanbul. Like who knew that? And I think that's fascinating because the cultures are so different. Like literally, because Georgia was part of the Soviet bloc for so long, they didn't really influence themselves from Turkey, and I think that's kind of fascinating. So in that sense, I don't think you could have made it anywhere.
Yeah.
But I mean, from a dramaturgical point of view, you could probably. But also, Istanbul is a very specific city, and I feel like this film is very much a love letter to Istanbul and to Turkey and the music and everything. So maybe Brazil.
Yeah.
Sao Paulo is similar in the
because
texture.
at the same time, you show the problems for the locals.
Yes.
The way.
Yes. Yes.
And the intensity of the city. I mean,
it's such an
Bombay,
intense
no?
city. Yeah.
The street vibe, that kind
It
of
is.
thing that you.
But also, there is this vibe, and then people are struggling. but they don't know that. Like in their lives, they're having fun and they're happy. Like those
Portrait
kids
of
are
the
happy.
Kids, I was gonna say, it's really lovely.
Yeah, they're happy, and they are. I mean, you know, he does have a family. That kid, you know, he has a mother somewhere. She shows up every now and then, I think. But I just wanted to show, because that's also something that I experienced when I was there. That, you know, the trans community and a lot of like sort of kids that were without their family, like they were together, like taking care of each other, and I thought that was sweet. I was like, that's nice. Like in another context, these kids could have been homophobic or transphobic, but not in Istanbul, because in Istanbul they're all living together in this.
And was it on purpose to have people from different age groups, like the
Yes.
kids and the
Very.
adolescents, and then
I thought it was
she's
very.
older than them,
I thought it
that's-
was very important. To me, it's a generational story, and again, and then we danced. There was such a divide in these generations, and I was like, no, this is wrong. Like, it's not like that. I need to show again. For me, cinema is so powerful. So I'm thinking always like, oh, if I show other alternatives, then people will feel empowered by it. And
I love this scene with the lipstick.
Yeah,
Because I
me
think
too.
it gives an extra thing. She's not bad.
Yeah.
She's a little bit older,
Yeah.
but when the situation
Yeah.
presents she was not just interested in.
I wanted her to have a sexuality too.
Yeah.
Like she wanted to have sex with that man, but the man got scared. Men get scared
No, but,
sometimes.
yeah,
when
but
they
for
want
me,
sex.
this was the scene that really remembered me Central do Brasil.
Oh, really?
Was The
There is
guy,
a scene
yeah.
of the
I haven't
the
seen
driver.
it in so long, but it's probably there back in my mind.
The driver
Exactly.
fly away.
That's
Oh, he leaves?
Yeah,
That's
the guy
exactly
was
the
so
same,
scared.
yeah.
Yeah.
But men are scared like that.
Obviously,
Yeah.
Like when women want something like that, men are always afraid. I don't know why.
because we don't know. I mean, in our age, we used to go to them.
Men want to
Now-
be the one who is.
Now,
you
and-
see, you hear. This is interesting.
And if the woman came, it's like, for example, in Colombia, it's like
It's too much for
it's
you.
no, it's not too much. It's like what happened here. It's not normal. This is not normal. So maybe something is wrong. I'm gonna get robbed.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I think in Brazil it's the same.
No,
Maybe-
women attack men for all reasons.
Okay.
Not just for the money, no.
So
Yeah.
if a woman approaches a man in Brazil, like, let's fuck,
Yeah.
that's okay.
Totally. Actually, they are too lazy now. You have to do that because they are just expecting you
No,
to.
for us,
Wow.
They are
it's-
so lazy.
For us, it's like
They are lazy. in
I
Brazil.
mean, something.
How is it in Spain?
I think they don't have a problem if you're the one who
That's nice.
takes the first step.
Yeah. In Georgia and in Turkey, it's like you say, it's more. They get suspicious.
Yes.
Something is wrong.
I mean, usually our women. I mean, it's not generalization, obviously, but let's say that they are kind of princes, you know.
Yeah.
But
Straight
it's,
people
it's
are
yeah.
weird.
That's interesting. Straight people are weird. Yeah. They are, right?
They are.
What about the wedding scene? I mean, I don't know if it kind of concentrates the way Turkish people are. Are these welcoming? I mean, you
Yes.
can get into a wedding. even
Yeah,
if
for
you're-
sure.
Just like that.
I mean, and also I feel like in any film, I want to have some singing and some dancing. You have to squeeze it in. It's like the Italian neo-realists. There was always some singing and dancing. And I felt in this film, I was like, you can't be in Turkey and they have to dance. And I always ended up in weddings when I was doing research, or some party like that in a restaurant. I was sitting there eating, and then they were dancing, and then they would pull me up and I would dance. So I was like, I need to put this in the film. And it's
And
just
then you
like,
got the poster.
yes, and I got a poster. But it's a sweet moment because,
is.
you know, it's like, what do you do in life?
It was
You-
nice because they were still sad about
They were
everything,
sad,
but then
and they
suddenly,
connected through the dance. It's
Yeah.
nice with the body language, and he was smiling to her, she was smiling back. I thought it was sweet, and also being in a car, like in the film, you know, she's in the car afterwards, and she sees Evrim and that boy. She thinks probably about Tekla, about her alternate life that she never sees. And sitting in a car in Istanbul listening to amazing Turkish music, I just wanted to, again, I wanted to like share that with a cinematic audience, like with the audience. I wanted to be like, you know, I want to catch moments and flavors and these textures, and I felt like that was a nice moment.
You were talking about your experience on TV, and nowadays Turkey is a gigantic industry.
It's crazy, right?
So I wanted to know if you would be interested, or the languages are.
I would never do TV in Turkey. Actually, I mean, I don't want to do TV at all. I mean, if I can do it if it's interesting and good, but it's not something that I aim for. And I wouldn't do it in Turkey because, from what I hear, they have a very quick production. Yeah, and I don't have time. I mean, I'm slow. Like I can't. It takes time for me. I wouldn't work. I wouldn't be able to work in that context. I don't think.
And last question.
Just because you mentioned Italian neorealism, I was wondering if that's the sort of cinema that kind of inspired you growing up?
A lot. I have many. I feel like Mama Roma and maybe Nights of Cabiria are like behind me in this film. And I also love. Did you see this film Love and Anarchy by Lena Wertmüller? It's amazing. You have to see. If you haven't seen it, you have to watch it. It's about this man who they hire to shoot Mussolini. He's like this working class man, and he ends up, or he's undercover, so he lives in this brothel in Rome, and he meets all these women in this brothel, and there's a scene when they suddenly start singing, and it's a fantastic film, and he falls in love with one of the women in the brothel. So he can't shoot. I mean, he's afraid to shoot Mussolini. It's a fantastic film. You have to see it if you haven't seen it.
When did you discover these films? Like as a student or earlier?
I think it was organic through my life.
Okay.
I think when
I
was
played on Swedish television.
Yes.
Yeah.
I saw something on Swedish television, and then it stayed with me, and then I saw it when I was older as a student too, and definitely it's been in and out.
Yeah.
And then I've looked it up myself because I really like it, and you know, I love Anna Magnani, for instance. I didn't read any reviews, but
Someone was mentioning her.
they were mentioning
There's a few mentions already this
of
morning.
Anna Magnani.
Yeah.
That's amazing. How could they see that? That's fantastic.
Hey, thanks, Tis.
Thank you.
Oh my
very
God,
much.
this was so nice. I could
Thank
talk
you, man.
forever with you guys.